It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker.
Yo, man. Boom, Miss Rusty. What's up, everybody? It is Monday, second podcast of three today. I already did one this morning, Jupiter's Envy, and have one later on. Or finish right after this one. So just boom, 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 boom. Actually, there's only three booms. I don't know what the other two are, but that's just for some boom, boom. And thank you, everyone, for being here. My name is Rusty Diamond. This is the Public Access Podcast on the Quantum Global Broadcasting Network, QGBN. Check out other great shows on the network, such as When the Gloves Come Off, The Thinking Man's Pro Wrestling Podcast, This Is It with Lizzie, and Saved by the Ben. And this show brought to you by Fred Ben Savage as Fuck, Stoner Eats Productions, Hardcore Entertainment, Hypnosis is Great, and Sock'emUp.org. So today I'm going to bring on my special guest. I'm going to bring him on right here, right now. We have Gary Fahey. How you doing?
Hey, Rusty. I'm doing very well. It's great to be with you this morning down here, but it's this afternoon where you are.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's the morning where you are. It's been pretty crazy. So there's been a number of people I've done shows with that are in either Australia or New Zealand or somewhere in there, and this seems to be the time that works, and it's opened people up a lot to the world. You don't have to be in the same room or anything to podcast with people, or which is nice. But then also the only thing that's really makes it kind of tough can be the time zone. But if you get something like this where it's morning for you and afternoon for me, and it's not so bad, then not too bad of a way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the positives, I suppose, that comes out of COVID. This has become a lot more normal. It's still a little early in the morning down here. It's 3 a.m, but I get up at 4 normally, so it's not much different.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Then, being up and going. There's
Right.
yeah, and I mean that was like what the best thing probably that came out of it was, because when I started, I got on wanting to do Zoom only and get rid of my office in 2019, because I was working with some people on Zoom, but a lot of people were still very iffy about it and not too sure what, I will really get the same effect if it's on Zoom. And then then COVID hit and everyone got okay with it, and I think it made a lot of people's lives a lot easier. And plus, this way, people don't have to go to my office. They can sit at home and they can do their stuff where they're going to be most comfortable. Sometimes an office is comfortable, but not always. I like to think mine is, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's certainly opened the world up quite a bit. But like everything, it depends on how you use it. If you use it to, in my world, I suppose, completely always take the easy way out, then it can shut you down from face-to-face contact. But we wouldn't be having this conversation if we weren't comfortable with Zoom, and certainly, a lot of the people I talk to these days is via Zoom, and that's what people prefer. And it opens up support, it opens up friends networks, it opens up families, and it opens up work. So yeah, I think as long as you focus on the positive parts of it, it's always going to be a good thing.
Yeah. And so you are, so where you were, it was a lot different probably during COVID than where I was at first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was different for everybody wherever you were, and I think for some people it was just different based on your own thought process. To be honest, I never felt it was as bad as even they were reporting in Australia things with the lockdowns and that sort of thing, it didn't affect me a great deal. I mean, it did in one way. I owned a gym at the time, so I had to close the gym for 3 months, and there was some aspects of it that were negative, but I also got 3 months to spend with my family that I might not have got. Had I not
Right.
been shut down, I hadn't had a holiday for 4 or 5 years. I hadn't had a break,
Oh,
so for me,
holy shit.
it was almost like a forced holiday, and yes, there was downside to it. There's no doubt about that. I'm in a different part of my life now, so I was more than happy to find the positives out of what was coming, and
Huh.
yeah, that didn't affect me as much. I certainly get that there's places in the world that were a lot worse off than where I am in Brisbane. We didn't have it too bad, so but I do think that every individual might have taken a different tact depending on what their circumstances were.
Yeah, I think some people just really just shut down and gave up and uh, didn't make the best of what was given to them. And I mean, it sucks. It happens, but I mean that's got to be tough. And then just also perpetually not knowing when that's going to end. And I enjoyed it. I thrived in it, and yeah, it was, I don't know. And I was at a place too, uh, for most of it where it wasn't really nothing. Well, like 15 minutes from me, nothing shut down at all ever. There were no restrictions, no nothing. And so yeah, I was on like the town I was living. They sort of went by it, sort of didn't. But I mean, it was nice just being able to see how, I don't know. I don't think that I'm surprised a lot of uh like corporate buildings and those things went back to work and didn't
Yeah.
just keep everyone at home. I thought that would be the end of it. And I don't know if they're all doing that only because they're in some sort of lease they couldn't get out of, and it
Yeah,
extended. But
it might be right, but I'd be interested to know. I certainly know there's a lot of people during COVID that made outlandish promises to themselves. They realized their freedom had been taken away, and they promised themselves that once the world had opened again, I was going to, get out there and do certain things, or be a different person, or go back to the gym. Or I'd be very interested to see how many people, we're, pretty well free flowing now around the world. There's no restrictions as far as I know anywhere.
yeah,
I'd be very interested to see how many of those people really were honest with themselves about the things they wanted to do, and whether, certainly 12 months since we've all been open, whether they've done any of them. That'd be an interesting study to have a look at.
yeah, I'd say so too. It's just, yeah, I mean, there were a lot of people who, I don't know, we got handed any opportunity we wanted to kind of change everything we wanted to. And I mean, I went into podcasting pretty hard. I went into a bunch of different things, and it's like, well, if I'm here and I can do something different, or I can sit around and watch movies all day and get day drunk and um, just have a pity party for myself. And I don't know.
Yeah,
It was
it's still a choice that people got to make, right? And
right.
I spoke to a lot of people. In some way, again, it all based on perspective. COVID for me was a fantastic opportunity to put a line in the sand in your life if there was things that weren't going well for you. If you were struggling, it was also a perfect excuse for you to get help, right? Because it was very common for people to struggle because of COVID, because of the lockdowns. And so if you had been struggling in other areas, it probably made it a little more acceptable if you needed to start starting to look at some of those areas. And it gave people, certainly where I was, 12 weeks to work on themselves. I'm not sure many of them took that opportunity, preferring to complain or, pretend that they deserved all this time off. So just watch movies. And unfortunately, at the end of the periods of lockdowns, I don't know that many people moved themselves forward or, and didn't go backwards a lot. But that's a choice that people got to make, and it's easier to blame the government, I suppose. And there's plenty of things that they do wrong. I've got to say that. And I'm not sure I agree with a lot of stuff they did with COVID, but my view has always been that I'm still responsible for me. And, within whatever confines that have been created, I still get a chance to, to choose or to think or to grow, whichever way I choose. And I like to say to people, if you bear the cost, then you bear the responsibility. And I might not have agreed with the lockdowns, but the cost was going to be on me. So I've got the responsibility to do something about it.
Right. And I don't know if not trusting people to be responsible for themselves. And
I don't think people have learnt the skills. I think people have moved away from the skill of being responsible for themselves. It's very, very easy these days for it to be somebody else or something else's fault or problem. And when that's the narrative that surrounds you, it is difficult to own, your own life. You have to make a conscious choice. You have to make a conscious choice to do it. And it's difficult because, like I say, nobody wants to be responsible for their own pain. So they prefer it to be somebody else's problem.
yeah, and it's something that is so, because I've been talking about this recently on here about how there's that easy serotonin boost when something is, you're like, oh, this thing is like this way and it's affecting me negatively, but it's not because of me. And I need everyone to cater around me to make sure that I'm okay, which was sort of like going and, getting a shot and saying that,
Yeah.
if as long as you stay away from me, as long as you, don't come near me, as long as I have this. But that's another story.
Look, I suffered with depression for 10 years, and I can tell you, I tell people that depression is easy. It's not pleasant, but you don't have to do anything if it's something else's fault or something else's problem, right? So I could just say, I can't do that or I'm not going to be successful because I've got depression, whatever, insert your symptom here. But, and so people often take the easy option. I can't do that because of COVID. I can't do that because of the vaccine, and I don't want to get the vaccine. So therefore I can't do that job. And then, some of those things might be true, but how you use them really, really affects your outlook and your ability to move forward.
Yeah, there's a lot of just, and it, like realizing there is something that you can work on, realizing that there is this obstacle and being able to work through it. It's gonna not be a fun experience to work through it, but then also at the end, you're past it and you don't have to worry about it on the same level. And then, but then
said it'd be easy. They just said it'd be worth it.
Yeah. And but some people wear that, whatever you would call it, I don't know, whatever it is that's stopping them as like a badge of honor. And who are they without that being the person?
Identity, 100%. Yeah, that becomes part of their identity.
And that's all self-imposed. Well, I don't know all, but I would say, 95% self-imposed, that the only person really adhering to that or that it really matters to is themselves. And
I suppose I'm starting a bit of a quote-a-thon here, but again, it's something that I do a lot in my work. It's, I tell people that without a conscious identity, we all become a victim of circumstance, a victim of conditioning, and a victim of comfort. And all of a sudden, the identity that you have is not yours, right? It's something that's been given or that you've taken from the world. that you've taken from your circumstances, your conditioning, and your comfort, and the easy way out all the time. And that's not a pleasant place to live in. But it becomes easier to stay that way for many people than it does to change, to own their own lives, to be responsible for themselves, to have control. And whilst they would deeply want those things, it takes effort. It takes conscious effort to achieve that. And as I said, sometimes having these ailments or having someone else to blame is easy, not pleasant by any stretch of the imagination. It's just easier.
Yeah, and now if someone, and it's also like if someone wants to say something about it to this person, be like, oh hey, that's, I even telling someone, I hope that you're more than that, but then they can take it as someone coming at them and attacking them for not, I got even mentioning that it's not, or that it is something that they can work on, is something that's just, they're just not that event, that one moment in time or whatever. That,
Often if you're offended by something somebody says about you, chances are there's something about you that you're not comfortable with. It might not be the exact thing that person's saying, but you are hypersensitive to the external world because you are not consciously comfortable with who you are. Unfortunately, what we do is pretend that we're comfortable with who we are by, putting all these posts out to say, this is who I am and I'm proud of it. And this is what I do and I'm proud of it. And, there might be some people that genuinely are, but if you then are offended by somebody commenting, I say to people all the time, like, it's impossible to offend me. There is nothing you could say here to offend me because I know who I am and where I'm going. I'm very conscious about it. I don't always get it right, but I'm not looking for somebody else to tell me that I've got it right. And so when you start to be offended, typically there's something about you that you're not comfortable with, or you haven't worked through, or you haven't been conscious about. It's a process. It's not easy. I've been there. Not easy.
Yeah, me too.
But it's certainly worth it.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the thing to get out, that I mean it is worth it, and no, it's not just gonna happen with nothing. You need to, I mean, just being able to look within yourself is the first part, and not trying to I mean, if you're getting offended by something, you should ask yourself, why is this bothering me? What is it about
it's always
this?
a you problem. It's always a you problem, because we, in reality, we can't be offended by somebody else. It's not possible. I think it might have been something of Epictetus that talks about, being offended. Your own mind has to be complicit in the offense. Right? If I can't be offended, then there's nothing you can say that can offend me. Therefore, I'm not offended. Right? It's up to me whether I'm offended or not up to you. You could say the worst thing in the world to me and I could be unaffected, or you could say something nice and I can be offended. It's still all on me. And again, I think it comes down to that brutal honesty, like you said, of looking inside yourself, right? It's all inside. It's just nobody wants to be responsible for their own pain, because if you're responsible for it, you have to do something about it. And people aren't prepared for that yet. A lot of people aren't there. They haven't, they haven't experienced enough pain to want to make that change. I would love people to want to make that change without experiencing the pain. It's a lot better when you do it without the pain. I can tell you that.
Right. Yeah. They haven't hit that point. They haven't metaphorically shit their pants. And once you shit your pants, you can't shit your pants anymore. I mean, you're
exactly right. Yeah.
Pants are already there.
You've either got to sit with shitty pants or clean yourself up.
Right. And then that's what you do. And that's a simple two-way, no gray area choice that you have. Whereas without getting to that point of having shit in your pants, you're kind of sitting there, well, I could just kind of get around it and hope that everybody else caters to me and it never
Yeah.
comes up and I can avoid it. But when it does, I'm going to have a meltdown.
Or worse, they
And
hope everybody else shits their pants to make it normal.
right. That too. That's the even better part. Exactly. That's a very good point. And it's weird to think that, but it's true that you get to, that's all they can really, do. Hope that everyone else shits their pants.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, because they
so
don't want to
then,
do the work, right? They don't want to do the
right.
work to clean themselves up.
Yeah, because then it's this way to everybody. And it's
Yeah.
just something that we as a collective decide that is something that nobody has the ability themselves to overcome. It's just
Yeah, and
some,
people will see this. I mean, hopefully, shitting your pants becomes part of the clip for the show, because I think it's a good analogy, right? But
yeah,
people will see this all the time if you're trying to better yourself. If you, let's say you drink too much and you want to stop drinking, your friends will typically try and get you out drinking again, not because they genuinely want you to break your habit, but because they're fearful that if you're successful in cutting back your drinking or stopping drinking, that there's no reason why they can't be successful either. And that's why when you shit your pants, you hope that everybody else shits them, because you don't want them to be successful or clean themselves up, because that means that you could do it as well. And I don't want to do it because it's hard. And that's the it's understandable. I mean, that's the great thing about the things I've learned over the last 5 or 6 years, and the things I've worked with. All of it is understandable. Every action and act and thought that people have is understandable. Often not helpful, but they're all natural. They're all actually processes of the human brain. And even where people end up, it's just a simple process. The process of becoming addicted to anything is the same as the process to become successful at anything. It's just one's done subconsciously and one's done consciously. The conscious one is a lot more difficult than the subconscious one, because of some 200-300 million years of advantage the primal brain has on the thinking brain. That's primarily all it is.
and what is it? I don't know. So if people don't want to, what can really be done? That's kind of where we seem to be at. And yeah, it's just easier not to think about it. And I hope everyone else shits their pants, as opposed to, but you can't really get someone to want to change. Like if people come to me and they say, oh, Rusty, I want you to hypnotize me to stop smoking. And I ask them, do you want to stop smoking, or is somebody else asking you to stop smoking? And if someone else is asking you to stop smoking, keep smoking. Don't feel bad about it. Just do it. Keep doing it. And if someone else wants to do it for you and you don't really want to do it, don't do it. But, when you do, come to me. But it's
You won't be
always
successful either. You won't be successful. Certainly not long term. I've never worked with anyone. In fact, I now, sounds like you do the same. I will turn someone away if their primary reason for developing themselves is somebody else. It doesn't work. Now the other people will get the benefit from you working on yourself, but a question I often ask people before I start working with them is, if they've got an issue with their partner, and say for instance they would normally come in and want to change for their partner, and I would say to them, if your partner leaves and you do this work, will you still be in a better place whether she leaves or not, or he leaves or not? And they'll always say yes. I'm like, well, that's your answer. The answer is you're going to be in a better place to do this work.
Yeah.
Do the work. If they stay, the partner stays, fantastic. If they don't stay, fantastic, because you're in a better place.
Right.
You know, that's the answer. But again, you know, people aren't conditioned that way. Because if it's for somebody else, again, I just get a little get out of jail free card that if they happen to leave me and I can blame somebody else, right? I can
Yep.
stop, or I can do all the work and they leave. I can say, see, it wasn't because of me anyway. And, you know, it just gives people that little bit of space that they need to be comfortable. And, you know, some need that to start, but yeah, you're 100% right. If somebody doesn't want to make the change, there's almost nothing that you can do apart from, you know, be responsible for your own happiness. As in, if my partner doesn't want to change, I would be more than happy to be supportive for as long as I can. But at some point, I have to make choices that are in my best interest as well, not always their best interest.
Right.
And the more people that are not necessarily selfish, but conscious about what do I need in my life, it'll start to influence and affect the people around you, and people will start saying, oh, well, if that's what, you know, Gary's doing, then maybe I could try something, or, you know, or they go away and be miserable. I mean, that's a choice that people get to make. I just don't think you get the choice to be miserable and complain about it at the same time.
Right. Yeah. Because there's totally something you can do about it. And
100%.
yeah, and I think a lot of times when people like, yeah, so if they end up breaking up or something, and then one of the first inclinations is going to be to, oh, you know, fuck this thing I was working on. Like, I'm going right back to the way I was. Like, what am I doing this for? I was doing it to appease this person. And then, yeah, then you have that feeling in your head then when you're trying to, even afterwards, when you're trying to get back to it, you're like, oh, I'm not going to do it just because, like, who am I doing it for? And yeah, if you're not doing it for yourself, then yeah, don't bother. Don't feel
That
bad
doesn't
about it
work.
then.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly right. Again, my point is be conscious up front. Understand what it is that you want and why you want it, and who you are and what you're working towards. And then it just becomes your life. It doesn't become a goal or a challenge or a 6-week thing, or I'm doing it for something else. It's just, that's who you are. And, you know, there's a lot more fulfillment in living congruently with who you are than there is in the enjoyment of a Friday night out that ruins the next 3 days.
Right. Yeah. And that's been interesting one. Yeah, like even now, like, yeah, if I'm do something where I stay up late all night, or, you know, then yeah, I'm 3 days is lucky if I'm getting back after 3 days to recover from
And you
any
can
of
get
that.
away with some things when you're younger, but look, I'm not against going out. I'm not against drinking, and look, I do it from time to time. I'm not a big drinker or anything like that, but I'm a lot more conscious about when and why I do things these days, and what the toll is or what the cost is, and what's important to me. I know what's important to me, and, you know, I try to make choices. I don't always get it right, but I try to make choices that move me in the direction of things that are important to me. And I try to be conscious about it. So yes, I would enjoy a Friday night out till 2 a.m. with friends, but I got shit to do on Saturday. And the thing I got to do on Saturday is more important than the thing on Friday night. And therefore I have to make a choice between the two. So I go out and I don't drink. I mean, and, you know, it's awkward for a little while, for about 3 minutes. And after that 3 minutes, I say to myself, I don't even know why I want to drink anyway. Like, it becomes exactly the same evening.
Yeah, just going out, yeah. And so then when are when are people deciding usually to get a hold of you? Like, what's going on? If you could give a generalization of what's going through somebody's head before they're going to get a hold of you.
Unfortunately, it's usually later than it should be, or later than the first. You know, any pain is an indication that you need to move, right? Like if you put your hand on a hot stove it's an indication you've got to move your hand. If you're feeling
Right.
some sort of internal pain, it's an indication that you've got to do something, not move out of your life, but do something. And that's around about the time when people should be contacting someone to help them rebuild a conscious identity or work through their problems. That's something that I didn't do for 10 years. And as a result, life got worse and worse and worse. Typically, people do reach out, though, when the problems that they see in the mirror are more greatly affecting their life than they can control. And typically, that will be around a partner is about to leave or they're struggling in a relationship. I am not a relationship coach, but I would suggest that 80% of people I work with have issues in their relationship. And they have issues in their relationships because they have issues in themselves. I tell them all, if you start arguing about who's putting the bins out, you are not arguing about who's putting the bins out. There's something else that's going on that you're struggling with. So unfortunately, people will come to see me only when they've lost their job, they're about to lose their partner, they've been in such a hole for so long that they don't feel like they can get themselves moving anywhere at any particular point. But in reality, the time to start the work, the time to start the work is now, because there's always a good time to start working on yourself. But if you start to feel an internal pain, if you start to be angry at people that you're not, if you're starting to feel emotions that you don't like, right, that you don't want to be experiencing, if you're starting to regret feelings and actions, that's a good time, right? That's a good time to ask the question, like, what's going on? If you're angry at somebody, it's your fault. It's not their fault. It's easy for 6 months to blame the other person, but when you're still angry 6 months later for something that happened, a long time ago, you've got to start asking yourself why. What is it that you're not comfortable with?
Right.
Yeah, that's the difference between when people come and when people should come, I suppose.
So do you ever have clients that get upset at you when you tell them that it's their fault? Or do they mostly understand and are already wanting to improve and are okay with hearing that? You might, maybe you don't say it quite like that, or
I
I
often
don't know.
will.
Yeah.
I'm a little different, I suppose. I work typically with high performers or alpha personalities, and I suppose if they've seen much of me beforehand, they might recognize that they're not going to. It's not a. I'm not a woo-woo guru or a linen pants and sandals come in and tell me your life story type of coach or counselor or consultant.
Right.
But look, a lot of them, again, typically because of the type of client, even if they're not expecting it, I think they value it. They know. They know. I mean, everyone knows it's their fault. It's just that they don't want to recognize it, right? And so, in some days I'm a lot more diplomatic than in your face, but sometimes people need to be told. They just need the permission to accept it, right? Again, because they know it, and they know that it's their fault. And sometimes there are things that you might argue about the term fault, but it's certainly your responsibility. And again, if you bear the cost, if your partner is going to leave you and you're about to bear the cost, then you bear the responsibility for action. Not blame. If the analogy I use a lot is, if I'm walking on the sidewalk and I get hit by a car, that's not my fault necessarily. And the other person might go to jail or get in trouble, but I bear the cost, right? I've got a broken leg. I've got a responsibility to do something about it, right? I can lay there and blame the other person for hitting me, but I've still got a broken leg. So I've still got to do something about it. And so, it's not a pleasant thing for some people to hear. Some people will break down when they hear it, but it's usually because for years they've known it, and they can finally, that's the bit that's stopping them from getting over the next hurdle or actually starting to work is, it's my fault or my responsibility. So I have some robust discussions sometimes with people, but it's the nature of the work and the type of client that I work with. They're high performers. Look, not all of them are struggling when I work with them, because I do high performance coaching. So, but most people have an emotional attachment to something in their life that is negatively affecting them, no matter whether they're on bouncing off rock bottom or they're right on the edge of greatness. We've all still got some emotional trouble that we're trying to work through.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, just being able to get to that point, yes, when you can really start to, get yourself into a better situation. And I think without getting to that point, I don't know if there's a way to do it. You can try to circumvent it all you want, but you're still going to need to hit that at some point and realize that this is where I need to go if I want to be in a better place. I need to get to, okay, this is something that's I can work on, and yet no one's going to be able to do it but me. And if I mess up, then that's my fault, and I can hopefully learn from it and move forward. But yeah, I mean, it's on me though. It's not somebody else.
I find a level of peace with that. I find that having the ability to control it is very important. And again, it's important for the people that I work with, because control is a factor of performance. And but it's important to me to know that I have an ability to control it. I don't want my life to be left to other people's or other things' hands, in other people's hands. I want to control as much of my emotions as I can. And that means I have to do some work. It means I miss out on some things, but life is infinitely better, infinitely more fulfilling when even the failures are more fulfilling, because you know that you did this on your own. You made a conscious choice to make a change or to do something or to try something. And that if it's my fault, I can fix it. Right? If I try to do something and I fail, but it's my fault, I can fix it and I can get better at it. If I try something and fail and I think it's your fault, then I can just go home and say, well, never going to achieve that. And I would much prefer to have as agency in my own life than accept what is handed to me or given to me. I appreciate everybody has different levels of where they're starting from or confines in their life. Confines exist. Right? We live in a world where there's laws and governments and fences and all of these sorts of things. So confines do exist, but we all still have choices within the confines that we have, and that's the place that I choose to work on. If I can move some of the confines in a good way, well, that's great. But if I can't, I can still move myself.
And yeah, you got to move somewhere. You got to move somewhere, hopefully in the right direction. If you stay stagnant, and you can stay there forever if you want. It's not going to be fulfilling, but if you really want to, you can stay there. But
and that's still your choice, right? Like that's, doing nothing is still a choice.
Right.
It might be something you can blame or can get out of jail free with it later on, but doing nothing is still a choice. And you sit there and do nothing and the world collapses around you. You don't have anyone to blame but yourself.
Right.
The word blame ends with me, right? M-E. That's how it's spelled, right? It all ends with me. And that's a philosophy that at the very least will help you live a more peaceful life. Because if it's everybody else's fault and I can't fix it, that's not a nice place to live in your head. If it's my fault and at least I know that I bear the responsibility, well, at least I can be at peace knowing that I did what I could do or I accepted what I couldn't change.
Absolutely. And so, Gary, where are people going to find you to be able to work with you or hear more about you and anything else
the best place,
Gary related?
Yeah, you can search my name, Gary Fahey. It's Fahey. I've got garyfahey.com, but most of the business I work out of is business I started a few years ago is Strong Mend, MEND, as in fix. So Strong Mend. And I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook with that as well. And my website is strongmen.com. I've got a website, strongmen.com. You can find most of those. Starting to get into this YouTube world as well. So, but there I'm under the Neurostoic. If you search my name, I don't think there's too many of us around. So you should be able to find me, or Strong Mend, you'll find me.
So for YouTube, if you need some video ideas, if you go, I'm going to have this video up in about an hour, and I'm going to put this here in the chat as well. You can take this video, the YouTube link, you drop it into this website. I can't get them to give me free membership yet. I'm trying to, in exchange for talking about it on this show, but you drop the YouTube link in there and you give it your email address, and within 10 minutes to an hour, it'll give you 10 to 20 of those YouTube short style videos, like where it has the captions, and it's all set up and AI made to what will like rank the highest, and it's pretty awesome, and it's free. You have like, as long as the video is under 2 hours, and if you can use probably like 3 or 4 videos, and then you have to change your email address to some other one, but then you can just do that over and over as much as you want. But yeah, if
I'm
you
all
need
about
some
that because
content,
I'm a little old world, so I don't have as much technical knowledge as many other people. So any help I can get, I greatly appreciate.
Yeah, me too. I hate trying to clip out these shows or anything like that, and try to figure out what something that is interesting and funny to me, it might not be to other people. And so I'll let AI do it. AI knows it pretty well. So
Why not?
yeah. All right. Well, hey, well, Gary, it was great talking with you. Glad we got to meet, and yeah, hopefully we'll talk again soon. All right, bud.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Rusty. Thanks for having me on, mate. And I've had an enjoyable chat. It's been a good morning, a good way to start the day.
Yeah, likewise. Or afternoon for me. But yeah. All right. Take care, bud.
Cheers, mate.
All right. That's Gary Fahey. So you guys get a hold of Gary. Check out his work. That's all you have to do. And if you want, you can always leave a message here for me. That's always fun. You leave a message 503-974-6420. I'll play it on the air. Or
messages. We don't leave no stinking messages.
so I do. So give me those. So you guys, thank you for listening here on the Quantum Global Broadcasting Network, QGBN. And again, I'm your host, Rusty Diamond. Check out other shows on the network, such as When the Gloves Come Off, the Thinking Man's Pro Wrestling Podcast, This Is It with Lizzie, and Saved by the Ben. And the show is brought to you by Fred Ben Savage as Fuck, Stone Reeds Productions, Hardcore Entertainment, Hypnosis is Great, and SockMup.org. And that is the show, man. Boom.
It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker. It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker.
Ernest! Ernest! Ernest!
Yes, Pee-wee.
You brought the snacks, right?